to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name's Tom Dutta, like Butta. Man, it is hot today. And I'll tell you, my guest, I got to give him a lot of credit. It's 105 degrees in Washington where he is. I can see the sweat pouring off his brow in the green room, so we got to be careful. But what is live streaming, everybody? It's the next generation of podcasting. When we're live streaming, we are popping up on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all the feeds. So, hey, if you can help us out, go subscribe to the YouTube channel, Tom Dutta YouTube. That'll help us get YouTube to notice this incredible show that we're doing with our guest, and it's going to be awesome. Let me now play a short video and have some fun watching this one. It's my pet project, everybody, my third book. It is a coloring book for the children. In a tough world, what better way than to provide the children with something to do, something that they can do with their parents. Check it out on Amazon, everybody, and I'll tell you more about it in another show. So, everybody, I want you to get into the role, get into the part as I introduce the guest. It's a beautiful, warm summer morning. You walk outside into your garage, take off your spectacles, and you put on your shades. And in front of you is this beautiful Harley-Davidson motorcycle. You put your right leg over the saddle, you climb on, you put your hands on the bar, and you start her up. And you start her up, and then you're off. We're riding right now down the highway. Some incredible turns. The sun is bright in the sky. I'm squinting my eyes. And all of a sudden we come to a place, a pit stop, and we meet a guy. And he's no ordinary guy. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy, because we're going to spend the rest of the next hour riding together. He's a former director of communications for Harley-Davidson motorcycle. He played an active role in one of the most celebrated turnarounds in corporate history. He got paid to ride a motorcycle. Are we getting paid? No way, but we love it. He's widely known and respected as one of the business world's most outspoken, provocative, entertaining thought leaders. He talks about things like brand management, competition, positioning, reputation management, human behavior, loyalty. Whew, I'm just sweating. Got a few bugs coming in my teeth. I'm going to grit a little bit because this man has some grit. His newest book, released November 2018, was called Make Some Noise, The Unconventional Road to Dominance, and he's going to tell us a lot about why he wrote that sucker. Is it a good book? Well, you're going to find out. He's asked to work with Harley-Davidson back in the days, a struggling company that restored its company image and improved everything, including its competitiveness, to create incredible demand for its motorcycles. Can you imagine being at the bottom and having to rise to the top? That's your role. Within a few short years, sales of motorcycles rocketed upwards. Harley became one of the most respected and still is competitively dominant, profitable companies. He's appeared numerously on networks, news programs, and I read somewhere that this guy's even met royalty, spoken at over 1,000 conferences, calls his current book, Make Some Noise, a different kind of high, one that comes from sharing my passion. So everybody, I'm going to bring him back on the stage now. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. Welcome to the stage, Ken Schmidt. Ken, welcome. It's great.
Thanks, Tom. Oh, do I have the wrong glasses on? Here, let me.
All
Wow.
right. Ken's got it.
Awesome. Other than the fact that I can't see her very well, at least we look cool.
Yeah, we looking cool today is what it's all about.
Looking
Yeah,
cool is what it's about every day, Tom.
exactly. I wonder if you've ever been introduced that way before.
Oh, I can tell you, no.
All right. Well, it's always great to be told that you're the one and only.
That was
So,
fun.
so Ken, before we get rolling into Plato's Garden,
Yeah.
tell us something. Tell us you wrote this book called Make Some Noise. Why did you write it?
Because what I learned over the years with so many of the businesses I worked with all around the world, businesses that we all buy from every day, is that they're very good at doing what they do. But what businesses don't do well is compete. And in fact, don't even talk about or think about competing. They believe that just going to market and doing something well is competing. And so that's why I write the book. I'm going to show people how to reposition the business and become competitive to the point that they dominate their market
Now
rather
that is
than just participate in it.
now that is cool, and I like that word dominate. Everybody, when that word dominate hits my brain, it goes on journeys. It evokes many thoughts. For all of you business leaders who are watching this live, or even watching the future release, I wonder what that means to you. Ken, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
When you're done with this world, man, what will the world look like?
What will the world look like? Oh man, hopefully. I mean, geez, if I could paint a perfect picture, it'd be people would be decent to each other and would understand why we're here, and we're not here to be superior to others. We're all here to help each other.
No, I love that word decent. And you're talking to a guy here in Vancouver, British Columbia. Hey, Canadian, eh? And you're over there in Washington, correct, Ken?
Yep, well, Washington D.C. Yep.
Yeah, we're a culture of tolerant people, but we're a culture of strength. But decency goes deep into my cultural values. I just love what you told us there. Ken, are you ready to go into Plato's Garden?
Let's go into Plato's Garden, man.
Welcome to Plato's Garden, Ken. Plato's Garden, this came out of something that I'm doing right now. I'm doing a doctoral degree in Middlesex University, and this interview will form part of my thesis. It's such an honor to have somebody like you on the show today. Let me tell you about Plato's Garden, and I'm doing this for a purpose. As we're in Plato's Garden, we think about Plato. Now, he's on the screen there, and Plato was an Athenian philosopher, Ken, during the classical period in ancient Greece, founder of the Platonist school of thought in the academy, from the word academia, which is cool, first institution of higher learning in the Western world. And the few words on the bottom there, knowing, being, and doing, we'll see what that means. So I want to give you three things to think about. Everything we're going to do throughout the day today with you is based on the influences of the context of you. First is what I call macro. So Ken, as you started this work you're doing to make a difference in the world, you wrote the book, you helped Harley turn around, and you did all these other things. What was happening in the world around you that may have influenced your public works, thinking back then? Second one is meso. What was happening in your industry? And you can tell us about your industry. I just say it was motorcycles, but you'll talk more about that. It's shifted into media. What was happening in the industry that may have influenced your public work? And three, and it's my favorite one, I'm going to push you hard in this area, which is what was happening in your personal life that may have influenced your public works? Because I get a lot of guests come on saying, hey, look how great I am. Here's my bio, and here's my staged picture. Here's it like that. And, well, they don't talk about their gut punches, their setbacks. So we're going to get into some of that deeper story if you'll let us. There's three lenses that I'm doing through my doctoral, and I'll finish with this so we get back to having fun. In writing my thesis, Ken, I'm looking at all of my work, and I'm looking at it through the lens of masks and identity. What makes us who we are? What's our identity? What masks do we wear? Two is a word you may not know, but it's called talanoa. It actually is a Pacific Islander way of communication. Going back to my roots in Fiji, the Pacific Islanders, we get together and talk, and emerge out of it, transferring from generations wisdom and knowledge. Something interesting about your story in leading a corporation and communication and talk comes to mind. Last one is hospitality. I don't know where that's going to come up in the conversation, but
Okay.
hospitality actually to me is the culinary arts. It's wine, it's getting together, it's breaking bread. Who knows? Maybe there's some of that in your story. So let's remove that off the screen now. Take us back. Take us back to the early years of Ken. Where did it start? Tell us anything you want.
Oh, geez. I'm one of the fortunate people on the planet whose days of youth and the passions of youth translated into what I was eventually able to do for a living, which is fantastic. As a kid of the 60s and 70s, I was enthralled by any motorized vehicle that had two wheels. And then that became explosive when a guy named Evel Knievel became one of the biggest social and visible icons of the era. Here's a guy doing stunts on bikes that was absolutely, not just absolutely thrilling, but really dangerous in a way that moms hated. That put a lot of kids in emergency rooms, but attracted a lot of eyeballs, and that's what I loved about it. Not only, so bikes are cool, but it's also a way to kind of stand out and be different, which is always been kind of part of what drives me. So that years forward, by the time I'm in my mid-20s, I get this opportunity to join ranks at Harley-Davidson, which was a business I frankly didn't have any taste for at the time, because I believed all the negative rhetoric about the company. This is an outlaw business that does business, that sells bikes to criminals, all that Hollywood craziness. But I saw, gee, here's an opportunity to get into the bike industry, be surrounded by stuff that I really like. And maybe, if things go well, be part of turning that ship around, taking something that's failing and making it hugely popular, and helping to make people love it and love motorcycling as much as I do. And by God, the stars aligned and it worked out.
Well, that's amazing. As I've got you on the screen here, I'm looking in your background. There's a 2 year left on my screen. There's a little picture of a lady. Is that somebody special in your life?
Yes, indeed. That's my wife. That's Kelly.
Okay.
And, great riding partners. Got her own bike, pint-sized badass.
Well, we'll have to talk about the badass bikes in a little bit. Let me just riff with you here. So everybody, we're with Ken Schmidt, who is the author of a book called Make Some Noise. He's much more than that, and we're talking about Harley-Davidsons and riding in the early roots. Ken, I mean, man, when you said Evel Knievel, it takes me back to that childhood. I still visualize that one of the jumps he did where it was over a bunch of Greyhound buses, I think. And,
Yeah.
oh my God, there was a documentary, if you ever saw it, on his crack ups.
Oh, there is nothing that was ever produced about him that I didn't see. So I was a huge admirer and fan, and I just soak up everything because this was in an era where you could describe someone as a one and only. He actually was a one and only.
Wow.
This is pre-cable TV and internet.
Yeah,
he was it, man.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It was one of those threads that was absolutely part of the fabric of my growing up. And my father left home when I was 12. I have a bit of a backstory. Really proud and love my dad. He passed years ago in 18. But the thing is that there's a couple things I remember was Evel Knievel, and he watched every time something come up. We watched it, and then football, Canadian football. It was just incredible. Let me just put down on my paper here. I had put down here, you started with Harley at age 20.
I was actually 26.
26, all right.
Yep.
So I want to go a little bit deeper. So tell us about your mom and your dad, anything you want to share, because I think that people start off and they're shaped by the people who influence them. This thing about bikes, and I think you're fearless, man, because if you can look at Knievel and go, shit, I'm going to get on a bike, man, and I'm going to do that, and I want to go fast or whatever. I think you're wired a little differently than everybody. But tell us about who influenced you the most, mom or dad? What were some of the nuggets from your childhood?
I think they're both really influential people in my world, both hardworking, both fiercely honest folks. I grew up one of six, so that it was a loud house.
Yeah.
5 boys constantly tearing each other apart. So just to have the patience to do that as a parent and survive it, I think is absolutely admirable and role model worthy. Interestingly, that my mother, because she was a nurse, at least that's what I attributed to. Boy, she hated anything having to do with motorcycles, mini bikes, dirt bikes. Evil Knievel might as well have been the devil,
Wow.
because he was inspiring kids to go out and do what me and my knucklehead friends were doing, and trying to do stunts on our bicycles before we could eventually move up to things with motors on them.
Yeah.
So that was something that was just seen as dangerous and abhorrent. And I was impressionable enough as a kid that when mom thought something was dangerous and abhorrent, that just made it more attractive to me. And I think a lot of people remember that from their youth.
Yeah. So it sounds like, was she the nurturer? So, the nurse, the kind of the nurturing person.
She absolutely was.
What about dad? Tell us about dad.
He was an engineer, very left-brained, which I'm not. So I have no talent for math, science. I'm a liberal arts guy, but extraordinarily practical and extraordinarily honest. So if something was up, you had to tell him. You could not get away with lying. Lying to my dad was unacceptable. He tolerated just about any. You could commit just about any sin, but that one he took personal. So we weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah. And are your parents still? Are they both with you still today?
No, they're long past. Miss them every day, but they sure did leave a big set of footprints to follow in.
Well, thank you, and I'm sorry for your loss. It's tough. I lost my dad, as I said, in 18. Mom's still around, not that well of health, but certainly you have one of the better stories I hear of the influences of context, going back to the micro you from mom and dad. Who, going back to that chapter of your life, what was one of your biggest frustrations growing up? What was one of the things that your rebellious side, if you had one, or something that just kind of, they call it sometimes you have a chip on your shoulder, it drives you to actually go forward?
Interestingly, that's a great question, Tom. I was then and am now fiercely and independent minded. That was always the joke that I pulled out, quip a billion times. Nobody tells me what to do. And because I think it was because I was in a large family, and 4 of my brothers went into the military. My dad was ex-Air Force guy. The thought of taking orders from someone was abhorrent to me.
Interesting.
Drop down and give me 20. No, I'm not going to drop down and give anybody 20. I'll do that when I want, and I'm not going to get my hair cut either. So don't touch the hair. Just a fiercely independent thinker.
Wow. Yeah.
And doer.
Amazing to hear. I didn't know that part of your story, Ken, but I just wrote some notes here on the paper about your other brothers, military as well. They seem to, I don't know if they followed Dad in the footsteps because of Dad's influence. We have something in common. My father was a commanding officer in the military. He's actually, because he was born in Fiji, he was stationed in the UK where I was born. He was on a military base. And man, that guy, my dad, was command and control. I'll kick your ass if you don't. And dude, I literally straight A's in school. We had the best manicured lawns. All my chores were 100%. I didn't have something you had, which I'm learning from you here, and you're blessing me. And that is the ability back then to be independent, to stand up for myself and set boundaries. So that is something later in leadership we'll talk about. How do guys like me who come from maybe turbulent backgrounds, who are rebellious against command and control, how do we lead them in business, right? Because I went into the business world, and I had this tug of war. Anybody who was command and control, I kind of in my mind saw them as evil Knievel, right? Interesting. Tell me about that in terms of what I just said. If leaders come from beginnings where they're influenced and there's this command and control style of leadership, let's talk about that. What do you do when you coach and teach them?
Well, first off, I think the world was command and control. So entire generations of people, not just in their personal or home life, but 100% in their work life were accustomed to this notion that the person at the top is calling the shots and you do what that person says.
Yeah.
But I am a ardent student of human behavior. And if there's one thing I know that's an absolute is that people resent being told what to do. People don't do what they're told, unless the boss is looking, right? We do what we think is right. But on the flip side of that, and I think the key note to leaders is people model your behavior. We don't do what you tell us to do. We do what you're doing.
Yeah.
We say what you're saying. We act the way you do. We behave the way you do. So if you're thinking that you're moving the business forward or anybody's life forward by kind of barking out orders and expecting them to respond favorably, you're moving backwards quickly.
Yeah, no, I love it. In my years, my background came from industry as a CEO, and only late 2000s did I start my own practice or agency. But man, I work with a lot of guys who had blind spots, who just couldn't see their behavior impact on others. And you're looking at one. I had a coach when I turned 31. I was 31 when I had my first top CEO job, and I remember having a coach, and I was driving the crap out of people, and I was a turnaround guy too, so I relate to you in some ways, in many ways actually, after reading your great book. But I would sit in a room, and the room was falling down, people sinking their chairs, and it was about my agenda, and it was about goals, and I was winning awards and getting the things done. And then one day I had a coach. They paid for a coach to come and sit with me and follow me around. And I sat in a room, and they gave me some tough feedback. And she said, she was a psychologist too. She goes, if you want to be the man, you got to make some changes. And I couldn't see it. And I said, well, what are you talking about? So she said, well, I've got feedback. You're brilliant, Tom. You're driven. But a little bit, you're arrogant. You're grandstanding. You're insensitive. And I went, holy shit.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Can you imagine? And here I am. My daughter's just born, just got married, and this is a big paycheck I've never seen. And now I'm in fear. Now I don't like that gal. And it took me a few years, but I transformed. I dug deep into myself. And so that's why your book and everything you're talking about is so great. Let's talk about that book. Hold it up and read the title of that book to us, Ken.
Sure. Well, the book is titled Make Some Noise, The Unconventional Road to Dominance. And there's my smiling mug sitting on a motorcycle there on the cover. And what it is, it's a roadmap, if you will, of how to reposition your business, reposition your approach to leadership and life to be more memorable, to be spoken of and spoken of highly, to be made loyal to, and above all, to be competitive to the point that you're dominant, because competition is something that is taken for granted and not hugely understood in the business world. And you see that it goes back to what you said a minute ago about leadership and so many of the functions of business that people just get wrong. So I wrote the book to right those wrongs, and also included a lot of motorcycle parallels, road stories and things into the book, because I'm a motorcycle guy, and that's the perspective that I tell all my stories from.
Yeah, I love that part about the motorcycle. Ken, I want to just throw a question out there, and then throughout some time, just touch on it. You mentioned the word memorable. And one thing I asked you to do for me personally, and I've never done this on the show, anyone, is, do you remember what I asked you to do at the end to critique me?
Yeah.
And I said to Ken, tell me if the show sucked. Tell me if it's good. And I put it out there. But the only reason I asked you that, dude, is because when I read your book, and hey, I'm going to just brag a little bit because it's worth bragging about. Let me just add something to the stage here. All right. This arrived in the mail the other day. Ha, 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 ha. Signed by the great Ken Schmidt. Look at that. That's the paperback. Because it came by mule train, according to Ken, I actually bought the hardcover. And I love the hardcover. The hardcover is amazing because I like hardcover, quite frankly. And I got the audiobook too, so I listened to you. And the thing that stood out for me, you
covering all the bases, Tom.
Yeah, I'm a triple fan. The audiobook is notable because your voice is on it. So the question was, how can people and businesses make themselves more memorable? So let's get into that and take us down that ride. And what does that mean? And pick any industry, but I'm just sitting here and pretend my sign on my forehead says, I don't get it. Tell me what you mean.
Okay, well, what I'll tell you first off is that most businesses do an extraordinarily bad job of making themselves memorable, making the business memorable. And what I mean by that is, and it's common in just about any industry you can imagine, is businesses without thinking about it model the behavior and march in lockstep with their competitors. Look, in any industry, everybody describes themselves the same ways. We stand for quality, and we stand for customer experience and unparalleled levels of excellence and all this wonderful stuff. All of which might be true, but see, in what universe would anybody want to be described the same way as a competitor? Like, why would we do this to ourselves? Why would we blend in intentionally? And people say, well, we don't do it intentionally. We do it without thinking. And see, that's where the problems come in. What people do running businesses is do things very well. I mean, find me a business out there that's bad at what they do, right? That wouldn't survive a week. People are very good at what they do, and the people running businesses know how to get their people to do things at a high level. That's all great. Yeah. But unfortunately, the exact same descriptions can be used for any of their competitors, right? People doing the exact same things that you're doing equally, if not better than you are, or maybe pricing it lower.
Yeah.
So now where are you?
Let me jump in and riff with you, everybody. Yeah. Ken Schmidt is the author of Make Some Noise. We're riding along today. Ken, you evoked in me a thought, right? So back in, this was before the last role I was telling you about, which was in the financial service sector for me. That was my first top level. But I went into telecommunications, and I was with our second largest telecom company. And back then that company was Twisted Copper Pair, they called it, which was your traditional telephone. Yeah. And if we look at Evel Knievel, the story you were telling, you can imagine that Evel didn't have a cell phone. When he's all cracked up lying on the ground saying, oh, he didn't pick out his cell phone and call 911. He's got this banana-colored phone with a little cord on it, Twisted Copper Pair. I joined the company. I was headhunted in, and there was about 125 of us, Ken. And right away, they bolted together two big telecommunication companies here in Canada. This was about an $8 billion company. And they decided to bring in consultants, and they looked at, let's change the CEO and the board. Let's change this into a company that's data, internet, wireless, and telephone. Okay, so the beginning of major transformation. And I'm a guy in there. So there's a point to my story here. I ramble a bit because of my concussion, so pardon me for going off on a tangent. I get in there, and I'm in my 30s. I don't know my blank from a hole in the ground in terms of jargon and language. And then I get into a boardroom, and I see consultants come in. All of a sudden, I see these value statements and this whole vernacular, this language start rolling out in PowerPoints and in presentations from the top layers down, using words like "we will be best in class" and all this bullshit. When I read your book, bravo to you. This book actually tells the truth, everybody. That I used to say this, and I'll give it back to you to tell me what you think. That I used to say this to people: if I can't explain what I do to my 12-year-old daughter, if I can't explain it to her, then I ain't explaining it to anybody. And imagine if I'm talking to a customer and I say that, and then I read your book and I go, holy crap, you said something in there about that. Yeah. Tell me what I just said or what you like, but talk about what's your response to all this?
Oh, first of all, I love that example that you say, if you wouldn't say it in words that your 12-year-old daughter could use. I always say, talking to business people, that if you wouldn't tell your grandmother at the dining room table in language that she could understand what you do, then you don't know what you do. You don't know who you are. Grandma doesn't understand your value statement. Grandma doesn't care about that. And that puts her in the same bed with all your customers or potential customers. Your fancy language, your internal knitting, your growth statements, your mission statements, all of which are important, kind of rallying things internally, tend to not resonate or reach into the outside world. I mean, the last time you bought from a business because you read their mission statement was exactly never, as it is for everybody. And that tends to be trite, what I call the dull, totally meaningless, totally non-memorable, emotionless language of business, which moves people and businesses backwards. It's totally not memorable. If you want to be memorable, it's got to be different in ways that people find meaningful, but also unexpected. Telling people what they expect to hear basically says, hey, we're the same as everybody else. We're a commodity. I'm no different. There's nothing special about me. Ignore me, which is exactly the world that we want to move away from if we want to become dominant.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Again, the CEO of that company at the time, and you're going to probably dislike the story about what happened to many of us at that company, but I don't want to dominate here unless you want to hear it. You'll ask me. But they basically spent money like drunken sailors trying to turn a ship in a new strategy. This was a unionized environment where they didn't think about the impact of limitation of the union. And I was part of an initiative called Fueling Our Future. We literally were asked to fire 5,000 people.
Oh, Lord.
Right-sized company. I put myself out of work and 40 people, drove $30 million in costs out of this company. That stock went from $35 when I got there to $6 when we started fueling our future. All because of some of the stupid things that they were doing, which resonate clearly in your book about, do the right things to be competitive, etc. Let's go back to the book then, and in here you're talking about being dominant. What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
Dominance to me is at the forefront of anything that I do, because I figure, hey, look, I didn't get into business to blend in.
Yeah.
I didn't get into business to be passed over. I didn't get into business to be thought of the same way people who do the same thing that I do, or to be an also ran. I want to be out in front all the time. What's the point? Why get into a business to be fourth best? Or fifth best? If you're not pushing to be the first one across the finish line, then somebody else is. So that's the way I've always thought of this. It's kind of the good enough can't be good enough because somebody's going to pass us. That's my take on that.
That's very cool. One of the things I love about the book, everyone, is there's a value add in it. So it's a resource book for sure. And there's something in it called a PDF, which is a document. So I'm just going to add something to the screen here, Ken. Can you see that?
I can.
Now, our audio folks on the podcast, when we release it, won't see this, but everyone on the screen, we have a PDF. Ken, I just want to slide down that for a minute, so just hold on a second. I'm going to take it to this page. Just tell us, what is this thing, and what do we do with it, and why do these 3 points, why are they there?
The 3 questions that are posed on the page are, to me, should be the foundation of any successful business. I've built my whole professional life is based on these 3 questions. I posted them outside my office on my first day at Harley-Davidson.
Read them out to us.
Sure. The questions are, what are people saying? What do we want them to say? And what are we doing to get them to say it? So what I'm talking about here is basically anyone or any business's most valuable asset, and that's their reputation. What do we want people saying about us? And see, here's the challenge and the opportunity all rolled into one. As business leaders don't tend to think about point number 2. What do we want people saying about this business? Because, imagine one of your customers, somebody that you talked with or served last week, is, sitting on a plane next to someone that you would love to have as a customer. Could be the biggest, most influential, deep-pocketed, glorious customer you could ever have.
Yeah.
And they both work in the same industry, share the same problems. At some point when they're having a conversation, your name's about to come up, right? At least you hope it is. What would you want that person to say about your business? Who you are, why you're awesome, why they should prefer you. And the 100% of the time, Tom, when I ask this of executive leaders, what do you want people to say about your business? Every executive at the table or every leader at the table will answer that question differently. Boom, the problem just identified itself. We don't even know, we don't have consistency here on who we are, let alone how we want the world to see us. Geez, maybe we need to focus on this, or employees can be consistent on this too. So that's the basic thesis of my work is, how do you want to be talked about, and what are you doing to make sure that that happens?
Yeah, everybody, we've got the PDF on the screen here. So I like the header. It's very clever. Noise cubed. This is like a foundational, I call it criticality, critical thinking. Fact is that when I read this, I went, geez, I could take this, Ken, and anywhere with any business leader, put this in front of them and say, okay, let's talk about these 3 questions. And what I was thinking about, maybe you can talk to us about this, a lot of your book comes from your wisdom. I mean, they say the difference between knowledge and wisdom is time, and dude, you got it. But a lot of it comes from Harley, the experience there. So I'm imagining that Harley-Davidson was a fairly complex organization structure. There's directors, and then there's other levels, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Let's get into one of the favorite things on my mind, which is culture. And going back to that story I told you where they basically fired 5,000 people and right-sized the company, what they didn't realize is that to turn the Titanic, it takes 5-7 years, shifting sometimes cultures that have gone wrong. Talk about that, about this whole thing of culture. It's a strong factor, and it adds a lot of success. But through the lens of Noise Cubed, how did you at Harley, what are some of the things you guys did and in your leadership to change culture?
Well, first and foremost, it was, to what we talked about earlier, Tom, very much a command control environment. At that time, the company had already been in business, 80 some years. It was a manufacturer. We made stuff, and employees knew a lot. We're 2nd and 3rd generation people there. This is what we do. We bend metal. We push it out the door, and hopefully somebody buys it and uses it. What had to happen,
stuff like that,
stuff exactly like that. What starts to happen, and it's, find me an industry where this isn't happening. Competitors started essentially copying the entire essence of our product line, making, products that looked and performed the same as ours did. If you cover the name on the gas tank with a piece of tape and park it on the street, people would scratch their head. They wouldn't know, they wouldn't know who built it. And quite a lot of them wouldn't care. And the mindset at the company at that time was, this is what we do. This is what we glorify. This is what we promote. Look at our product. Look at the quality. Look at the rideability. Look at the history. All of that was great, but it's actually counter-human. See, because what we were failing to realize is that the attraction to our business, the attraction to any business, that which makes a business different, isn't what the business does.
Yeah,
it's who the business is. And what I mean by that is, Tom, if think of any business, the one that you were working with, the telecom, think of any business in the world and try to describe it and not use the pronoun they. Right? They stink. They're awesome. They're amazing. They suck. Then the reason we do that is because we're human.
Yeah.
And we humanize everything. I can't humanize nuts and bolts and assembly processes, but I can certainly humanize the culture, the people behind that. And if we make that the attractant of the business, we will be competing at a way higher level than people who simply stand for product. Because remember, at the end of the day, we don't want to be known for what we do. We want to be known for who we are, because that's the only way we can differentiate our business. What are the human qualities that we have that others find attractive? And the mindset shift that it required for us, and I think it requires for any business, is to say, look, we thought we were here to serve, right? That's what we're here to serve and take care of customers. No, that's not what we're here to do. Anybody can do that, and anybody is doing that. We're here to be a source of delight for people. Anybody who's important to our business, because if we say and do things in front of people that show visible passion and enthusiasm and energy for what we're doing, and make a visible effort to delight them, to not treat them the way everybody else does, to not treat them as a faceless entity, but as a human being. Well, guess that trips all kinds of emotional triggers
Yeah.
inside of people. It fills human needs for people that they have a hard time having met elsewhere. And when you do that for people, guess what? They tell others and they come back for more. And that's, loyalty is what every business in the world wants.
I think that's amazing. And I do remember everybody, Ken Schmidt wrote this book here that I'm holding up, Make Some Noise. And there's another part to it, The Unconventional Road to Dominance. What was interesting is this, you just told us about this in a broader way, but I remember reading in here about, you said that because of what was happening with the company spiraling. I think it was it Honda, one of the competitors? And what's interesting to me is I don't know a lot about these beautiful machines, and we're going to put one on the screen here for a minute. There's a bit of a story around that. That's something. I don't know much about these. So quite frankly, if you put a Honda and if you put that and 3 other brands, Kawasaki or whatever, I'm just somebody who couldn't tell you, okay, which one do I like? But I'll tell you what, if I had read your book, and there's a couple stories in here of you riding and your experiences riding with others, you took me on a journey. They call it the hero's journey, Ken, in my mind, with emotion. And if you tied some of that to this bike, and I'll tell you where I found this bike, I'm very interested, because this bike is going to create for me a memorable experience. I don't give a shit about how many CCs and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that jumped out of your book to me, is about creating memorableness within companies, tying it to experiences. Where is this picture, by the way? I'll tell you. I walked out. This is funny how the universe works. I think maybe my reticular activating system, which, by the way, everybody, I'm a neuroscience geek, which filters things to find things, Ken. So I meet you, and then I'm preparing for your show, and literally 1 week after we kind of connected, I walk outside where I live, and this thing's parked on the curb. I can tell you, since pre-COVID times, I can't remember walking outside and having one of these guys parked on the curb. And all of a sudden I'm noticing it. And why am I noticing it? Because I read Ken's book, and Ken's talking about the experiences. So I kind of stopped, took some pictures. I just want to have some fun and show you. My favorite is that there's a little skeleton guy. Actually, the cool thing is
he's cool. I like him.
Isn't he cool? The right one where he's got his back, that was really kind of cool. And it says, I think it says "Live to Ride"
Yep.
on that cover there. So let me just remove that off this screen. I want to have some fun with you on that. But they say that it's about how people make you feel, not what you do, and you capitalize on that with what you're trying to tell us. Go back to loyalty. And so, okay, you're shifting the culture at Harley. You're creating memorableness. You're starting to change the way people speak and whatnot. But then there's this loyalty thing. Why should I deal with Harley-Davidson? Why should I stay there, or whatever company? How do you create loyalty? Quite frankly, I just thought it was a consultant's buzzword when they used to use it. We have loyal customers. Well, what the blank does that mean?
And what I typically hear is the exact opposite. We can't make our customers loyal, or loyalty is dead in our marketplace because customers see everyone the same and only want to shop on price. Wow. And I have a neat story, a way I love to describe loyalty and point out a mistake about it that most people make. And if I showed you a Harley-Davidson tattoo, you would say, "Oh, I've seen those before." The millions of them around the world. Yeah. Harley riders have been professing their loyalty to Harley, since World War I with tattoos. It's crazy. And people say it's just unbelievable.
Yep.
That Harley customers are so loyal that they tattoo the company's name onto their bodies. And then they say, "I wish our customers could be that loyal, but," and there's always that but what we do isn't cool or iconic and big and loud and powerful. So I was asking folks this question. I said, "You see all these Harley tattoos. What are those tattoos professing loyalty to?" And people say, "Oh, these are people professing their loyalty to their motorcycle, to their machine." And I say, you know what? That's the thinking that bankrupted Harley's business. This belief that that's what we're here to do. That's what we are about, is building motorcycles. No, we're not loyal to things. We're loyal to the people behind them. We're humans. We humanize everything. So when you think of a business, you see that tattoo. What that is it's it's all a mirror reflection of the culture
Yeah.
of the business. It's we need to put a visible face in our business. We need to focus on delighting people, and we need to actually do it, because when we do it, they come back for more. They are loyal to us and that which we represent, which happens to be that company and the logo. Any business can and should be doing this, because it's a scientific fact that humans seek out and faithfully return to anything they find delightful. Anything. And there's no better definition to me of loyalty than that. The person answering the phone at a business can do more to engender customer loyalty than any other person at the business if they're the only one who's actually talking to a customer. So what's coming through in that person's voice, what's coming through when they're having a discussion with that customer, when that employee is being interested instead of interesting, instead of talking about we have this, we have this, we have this, is instead showing interest in the person on the other end of the line or the person standing in front of them in the trade show. Tell me about you. Wow, that changes the dynamic immediately. Someone's showing an interest in me, asking questions about my favorite subject, me. I like that. I'm going to keep this conversation going. And there's never a time that doesn't work.
Yeah. I love that. Everybody, we're talking to Ken. Ken, hold up the book and again, just to tell us the time.
Oh, I'll hold up the book all day, Tom. Try to get it in the frame here. That's me. Make some noise. Unconventional Road to Dominance. See, what most people believe, and why I subtitled the book The Unconventional Road to Dominance, is people believe that doing what they do well and doing it more efficiently and knocking cost out, promoting, marketing it well, is the path to success.
Yeah.
And what I have to constantly remind people of when they tell me that is, you're on the exact same path as your competitors.
Exactly.
You cannot. You want torque, baby. You want to be the first one off the line. You want everybody chasing you.
You want torque, baby.
There you go.
Want that torque.
I don't want to follow somebody else. I want them following me.
Amazing word, torque. Just back to you say things, my brain goes on a journey, man. It's just beautiful. Writing down here in my little notebook, I wrote counter-human mind shift. Two big things you put in my brain. Everybody, just teaching moments here on the show with Ken. Counter-human. There's a lot of things that businesses do that are counter-human. Here's an example.
Most of it is.
Here's an example, Ken, because this was really stood out for me. We just went to New Brunswick, which is the other side of our country, to see my 26-year-old daughter graduating university, environmental engineering. And we also
quick coincidence, Tom. I'm leaving tomorrow on a bike ride up to Nova Scotia. It's going to go.
Oh my gosh!
All north, south, east, west. We're going to completely cover it.
Ever been there before?
Yeah, only in Halifax. I've not ridden up there in the backcountry, so I'm really psyched.
That's amazing. So I just take my other shot off the screen there. So God bless you for knowing something about our country, because when I have some of our American friends on, they don't.
I'm a huge fan.
Thank you. So there's my daughter in New Brunswick. We just spent a week there, and by the way, we got caught in this ridiculous airline strike, which I wanted to use as a case study on this show, but maybe I'll have you back. Get this. We have our number 2 biggest airline in the country. My flight's leaving home after a week at 7 a.m. the next morning, which means 4 a.m. at the airport. 7:30 p.m. that night, I get an email saying, sorry, your flight's canceled. I phoned the airline, and there's a director of communications, a.k.a. you, who put a recording saying, we're not taking any calls. Go figure it out, and then they give you 3 websites. Ken, I spent
Ooh.
from 7:30 p.m. sitting in the lobby of my hotel, which I already had checked out for the next morning, with my amazing wife. Now, my wife's just this really beautiful soul. We'll be married 29 years coming up. She's born in Italy. She's got that passion. She's sitting there watching me for 3.5 hours. I have some visual challenges too from my concussion, trying to figure all this out, and nobody's taking calls. What the airline happened was they had arbitration in place to avoid a mechanic strike. These mechanics are making 100,000, 150,000, some of them more. And we just learned that they got a 30% pay increase over 5 years. What world do people live in when they hold you hostage? So they walked out. In arbitration, you can't walk out. There's no more negotiation. They literally grounded the fleet, no matter where you were, whether in Europe, Hawaii, Canada, U.S. They grounded 90% of their planes. And they told us, my wife had to be back at work the next day, which was July 1st. By the way, this was our Canada Day long weekend. She had to be back at work. And they said, when I finally got an emergency travel agent who I knew on the line, 3.5 hours later, she looks in her system and says, they're not updating anything. Oh, here's something. We can get you home by July 4th. My wife's going to lose 3 days pay, et cetera, et cetera. And so it ended up, I went on another carrier, Air Canada. I found a flight out 2 days later, so my wife lost a full day's work. 2 days later, for $1,680, one-way leg to get home to Vancouver, another hotel night, $2,000, and I'm ranting because most of the Canadians hearing this will say, yeah, me too. They ended up canceling 850 flights. Then finally, when the strike was settled, they canceled more, 1,250 flights. And it took many people a week just to even find their way home. Now, here's the thing. You go into a company like that, PR nightmare, that's what you're dealing with. Just give me one nugget. What is the first thing you would sit down and want to talk about with the executive team of that company, which, quite frankly, I'll never fly with them again. I'm not taking the side. Yeah.
First and foremost, Tom, is if you're under the impression as a leader of this company that people are going to forget that this happened, and they're not going to tell other people that this happened, and they're not going to hold a grudge against you for as long as they live, you're very sorely mistaken. So what you don't need to do is go into a deep discussion about exactly what happened, because guess what? The customer has no input on that process, right? I don't care how you made the bacon. I just want the sandwich. The apology has to start immediately. The apology has to be sincere. We know we let you down. That is 100% our fault. It's not the union's fault. It's not the mechanic's fault. That's our fault. This happened under our watch. We are going to do everything to make sure that doesn't happen again. And to make sure that doesn't happen, here's what we pledge to do going forward, and then outline to you specifically what they're going to do and how you're going to benefit from that. We're going to award you free flights. We're going to do anything to earn your business back. But I'm pretty confident saying they didn't do any of that. They do what all airlines do, is we're just going to sit for a while and hope that everybody forgets. And because everyone shops on price and don't have a lot of choices, we're going to get you back one way or another. Someday somebody new will enter the space that will crush, kill, and totally dominate them. And they'll say, yeah, this was our fault. We let this happen.
Everybody, we were talking with Ken Schmidt. Ken, you should reach out to WestJet Airlines.
I know WestJet. Yes, sir.
WestJet Airlines. That is the airline, and it is basically there's the talk around the country is you ruined the country. Basically, July 1st, and you imagine all the people with families who have booked their holidays. These are trips, right? The airlines now are full. July 1st, those holidays won't come back. But to your point, and why I want to honor Ken in his book. As I was reading this on my holidays and reading the things in there, your principles about the cube, the 3 questions, I went, no, man, they did everything wrong. And even to this day, and by the way, what you said was just brilliant. The message from the director of communications on that phone line was not blaming with that language, but they made it a point of saying because of a strike.
It's not us. It wasn't our fault.
Right.
Yeah.
And they went as far as to give us a link to your rights your rights, and then even
Thanks.
yeah, and under if we rebook you in 48 hours, we don't have to pay you compensation. Well, dudes, you're not answering the phone. There's no flights for 4 or 5 days. So anyway, I'm gonna
That's so cool. Gee, honey, we can't get back, and you have to miss a few days of work. But look, here's our rights. They're right there in black and white. Let's study them together.
I'm going to get off my rant, everybody, and recommend to all of the airlines out there to get a hold of this guy, Ken, read this book, and apply it. Curveball question for you, and then we'll get into something fun called Ken Reads for a couple minutes. Curveball question: what you did with Harley was quite remarkable. To get the book, everybody, write a review, post it. You'll learn the story. If COVID hit during that turnaround, let's just say that 6 months before you guys started doing what you're doing, turnaround, COVID hit. Think about now about the way the world's changed with communication and leading people virtually. Do you think that might have had an impact, and how do you think you might have dealt with that?
I would guess, to be honest, it would have slowed some momentum, because so much of what makes Harley an attractive company, so much of the lore for employees was all of the lore, the stories, the shared community inside the business, the history in these old buildings filled with old bike parts. So yeah, that would have dampened some enthusiasm. But what I can tell you would not have stopped was either through virtual mechanisms, however it needed to happen, there would still be a constant flow of communication and a constant flow of encouragement, of modeled positive behavior to keep people enthused. We can't lose sight of why we're here, and especially during times when things are bad. Yeah. When things are bad, that's when people turn to companies like Harley. I need something that's going to make me feel good.
Exactly.
Get out and have some fun. Whatever, escape for a while. Well, bingo, here we are.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. I can see why so many people need you out there with the work that you're doing. We're gonna share something on the screen in a minute, but I wrote down this word on my paper here, oxytocin. It just came to my mind when you were talking about that, connecting to people. And Ken, I'm not preaching to you, but for my audience, especially having a brain injury recovery, that I went through neuroscience and learned that when Ken and I are on the thing here, and we're telling stories about New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, for example, he's connected to me, and my brain is going like, wow, I like this guy. There's something about him that we have in common. He's connecting to me as a human being. What happens in the brain is we release oxytocin. Oxytocin is actually the neuromodulator, or the chemical that creates joy and happiness. Imagine, you read this book, it's all over it, and you obviously figured that out in a different way, that if we're talking and making this human connection to what we do in our business, that people are going to remember, they're going to go deeper, they're going to be happy and joyous, and they want to come back to that experience. And this is why I said to you about reading the book. One of the things I'm going to just tell you did really well in here is using story, narrative. And everyone, when you read this, it's like a ride on a Harley, but it's those stories that connected to and released oxytocin and some dopamine, what's going to happen next, a little cortisol, there's some fear. But that was like a roller coaster through a Star Wars episode. Brilliantly done. I'm really impressed with that. Let's put this on the screen here and see if we can share it. You see the audiobook there. You see that, Ken?
I do.
Yeah. Now, normally I would play a clip from it, but everybody, Audible is where I get my audiobooks. You should take a look at this book, and I recommend it highly because, Ken, your voice is all over it. You've got that really good voice. Maybe it comes from all those bugs you swallowed on the back of the Harley. But what I like about it is, if you can't see it on the screen here, but if you open it up, and I played you can get a free sample, everyone. The PDF, once you buy the book that I showed you before, comes even with the Audible. And it's actually this worksheet, right, Ken, that you designed I can analyze I was thinking of using that for the WestJet experience, going through that little template of yours to really help myself understand it. So are you okay if we do a couple minutes with you? I'm going to call this segment Ken Reads. Is that okay?
All right, sure.
All right, so I'm going to do this in a creative way. Let's remove this.
All right.
Everybody, we're here with Ken Schmidt, the author of Make Some Noise. Don't you just love it if you ever have heard an author read their own work? We're revving up here, and we're going to give you Ken, and we're going to call this Ken Speaks. Over to you, Ken.
Beautiful. All right, this is just a kind of a random page in the book. I've rarely seen a struggling business where two employees, including executive leadership, can answer very basic, who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for, and why should I do business with you questions the same way. How can they possibly expect prospective customers to know who they are when they don't even know themselves? Man, that's crazy. But you want to know what's more crazy? Most of these leaders answer those basic questions using the exact same trite descriptions, like quality, it's an experience, or people make the difference, that their competitors use. In what universe does anyone in any business want to be described the same way as a competitor? The craziest part of all, though, is the fact that few business leaders even think about something as simple as this, let alone make it a priority to address it. I mean, talk about a real and present danger. By far, the most common thread that runs through most of the businesses I've met with over the years, in every corner of the world and among people of all ranks and ages, is the defensive belief that, quote, somebody somewhere is going to do something that's somehow going to make my life easier and my job better. So until that happens, I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? You've probably heard it, and you probably say it all the time. You know, once that new website comes online, or once those new products get approved for sale, or the management shakeup or reorg happens, or our social media strategy gets implemented, or our trade association pressures new legislation, or raw materials prices recede, or interest rates go down, or we get that new truck, or our merger is completed, our rebranding is introduced, you get the picture. Somewhere along the line, leaders stop telling their charges that the people most impacted by problems are the ones who stand to gain the most from solving them. So together, they wait.
Let's do a big round of applause for Ken
Clap,
there.
clap, clap.
It's pretty amazing to hear your voice, dude. Now I
love the applause, Tom. The great sound effect there.
What's it like for you to actually look at yourself? This is kind of weird, right? Look at yourself in a live stream and hear your voice reading. What was that experience like?
Well, I speak all the time, but I've never been asked to read, so it's kind of fun, and it's also interesting that as you're going down a road that you went down a million times, you begin connecting dots, and like I know what the next sentence is going to be, even though I haven't read that for God knows, a couple of years.
Pretty remarkable, and we kept some of the background Harley engine.
I loved it.
Going
Yeah, it's
in
very
there,
cool.
All right. The reason why I do this, everybody, the method to the madness is that I'm an indie film producer. It's one of the passions. I'm the world's only podcast. That's my memorable that brings guests out and creates a movie, not just a podcast. So my hope is that Ken will be able to take this final production, which hasn't been created yet, it will come from this, and he could use that clip and use it somehow to market what he does, to show how he's memorable, to let people hear his voice. So each of these segments we're doing is designed to elevate the great Ken Schmidt. So now,
Thank you.
We put you into the twilight zone. I'm going to now get into one of my favorite segments. I'll set it up. This is a quick one. So Ken, are you ready to imagine with AI?
Yeah, baby, let's do it.
Everybody, welcome to Imagine with AI. And so here's what we're going to do. Let me bring something on the screen here. Ken, give me a thumbs up if you can see that image on the screen. Everybody on the audio, when you see this podcast, in the future when you hear the podcast, you won't see that, but everyone, we have an image on the screen. It says Imagining with AI. Ken, are you a fan of AI, or do you at least understand its power and what it might be able to do in the world?
I understand it. I'm not yet a fan.
All right, Ken's not a fan. Let's just have some fun with that, because many people are trying to figure it out. I embrace it, and in my doctoral degree, actually, it's interesting because you can use AI to do some reflective writing based on your writing. Did you know, Ken, that if you took your book, you loaded a chapter into ChatGPT, and then you programmed it, you gave it what's called an instruction, or you instructed it, and you said, here's a passage of my work. I want you, whenever you write in the future, to write in my voice, in my tone. Here's what I do. I'm this. what it does is actually adopts, and remarkably, it's so uncanny, it actually does that. So
that does impress me a lot, Tom. Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you, Ken. Because I used to hate it. And you go, what the hell? It's taking jobs out because I'm listening to the mainstream media. And then I'm realizing, no. It's like when I started with a phone company, we went from twisted copper pair to data, internet, these cool cell phones. Don't stand in the way of technology. So I said to AI, AI, hey, I got this guy coming on, Ken Schmidt, and I want you to create a photograph, 3 photographs of the past Ken, the present Ken, and the future Ken. And then I loaded up your bio, I loaded up the background of your book and everything you did. And I said, what I want is a descriptor. And I, again, in my voice, and I did so we collaborated back and forth. I must have spent an hour collaborating. So what come out of this is not just AI, but Tom. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, let's take a look at the, let me just look for something on my soundboard here, everybody. Let me just, again, we can edit this up, so. Nope, wrong. That is not the right sound effect. Oh, my God.
A rim shot.
And ladies and gentlemen, imagining with AI the past, Ken, when the image comes on the screen, I want you to do one thing. Be quiet.
Yeah.
I want you to look at it, and then I want you, when you're ready, to reflect and tell me one word. Label it with an emotion. Happy, sad, whatever emotion it makes you feel. Ken Schmidt, the past. Ken Schmidt during his time at Harley-Davidson in the 1990s with dark hair, wearing a leather jacket. He's in a communication role, addressing a team meeting or speaking at a company in the garage filled with iconic motorcycles. The scene reflects the transformation era of the company, with Ken passionately leading the brand's revitalization. One word, Ken.
Passion.
Look at that, everybody. Look at that look on his face. We also gave AI your photograph. Now, it doesn't do a perfect match, but it's called a photo generator. And it was kind of interesting. If I were to tell you what it first came up with, we got a guy with a gray beard that came out first.
Oh, I don't doubt that. So,
all right. So let's go on. Are you ready for the present, Ken?
yeah.
But before I do that, I said to AI, I know Ken after reading his book what a passionate guy is, and I bet you if you could all day long ride your bike, you would, right?
I absolutely would.
And you told us early in the show, which I didn't know, we didn't set that up, that was the thing you craved since you're a kid. So I thought,
still do, yeah.
What would Ken really want to do? And that would be my picture. Not in teaching the guys in communications, but the dude sitting on the bike. You got your hands on it all over it. That you spent your life in that shop. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. The present. Ken,
oh, look at that.
all right, let me read this out loud. Ken Schmidt today is a middle-aged business advisor, a speaker. He's seen delivering a keynote speech at a major business conference, exuding confidence and charisma. Wow, emphasizing his current influence in the business world. He has a salt and pepper beard, hair, and is wearing a suit. One word.
Wow. Pride.
Look at that. Look at that. Listen to that, everybody. The connection, what a picture holds 1,000 words, but what you're seeing is Ken going through this journey in his mind. And you're hearing just a change in emotions between those two pictures. Are you ready, Ken, for the future?
Future, absolutely.
Ken. All right, everybody, imagine with AI, here is the future. I love this picture. Now, let me read this out loud. You ever watch the show Cheers?
Oh, yeah.
Imagining Ken Schmidt's future in a world where his innovative ideas have transformed business culture globally. He's depicted as an older visionary leader in a futuristic city surrounded by advanced technology and sustainable innovation. The image showcases Ken interacting with holographic interfaces, symbolizing his continued impact and forward-thinking approach. Ken has white hair, a beard, wearing futuristic yet professional attire. In the background, a sleek futuristic motorcycle. That is so cool. Design that reflects his passion for Harley-Davidson and showcasing advanced technology and sustainable energy features. One word.
I guess the thing that, geez, relief.
Relief. All right, everybody.
It
So
all worked.
it all worked. But when you look at that image, doesn't it evoke some really interesting feelings and thinking? I mean, as I asked you, when you're done with this world, what will it look like? You're on a journey. You're transforming companies. You're speaking around the world, and we don't know where it's going to end up, but that's pretty exciting to be in your shoes, man.
Well, and if you think about it, Tom, just look at the last 10 to 15 years. Yeah, I mean, the world has been advancing so
Yeah.
quickly, and with technology and AI and stuff. And they think, well, think how that's going to accelerate going forward. That might be a vision of the world 5 years from now.
Well, there's a teaching moment. What you just said. Come back, listen to that, everybody. That could be 5 years from now. That's crazy, but that is how true you are, Ken. We don't know what's going to happen, but I believe that could be 5 years. All right, let's wrap up, everyone, here in Imagining with AI. We had the past Ken and who he really is on the inside. We had
Nice
the
hair.
present Ken with the nice hair and the future Ken. Congratulations with being Imagining with AI.
That was fun.
Now I have another surprise for you, Ken. So
Yeah.
as we go into the pitch for your book, I'm recommending your book. I'm asking
Well, thank
people to take a look and read this book. But everyone, authors their work's not known unless you read the book, you get it. I'm going to recommend you get it, read it, but post a review. If you don't know what this means, contact Ken. He'll help you. But an independent arm's length review is what I've done for his book, and we're revealing it here today on the Quiet Warrior Show. This is the international review. It's going to be from Canada, so I'm going to share a screen here. This bumper is called Pull Up and Pull Away, something that apparently when you're on a motorcycle happens.
Good.
All right, everybody, we're pulling up in the studio here. We're on a motorcycle.
Well, I guess I can put my darkies on here.
And Ken and I are riding together. Can't put your hands how they would normally be.
Oh,
on the
boy.
handle, but there we are. Oh, I got a bug in my teeth. So I got to get rid of that one. Ken and I are on our cycles, but as we're riding, we got those headsets on where we can talk to each other, right, Ken?
Yeah.
Hey, so we're going to get into a little role play here. So, hey, Ken, guess what? I just wrote a 5-star review for your book, and it's
Oh,
posted
well, thank
on
you.
So I'd like to share with you. Can I read it to you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, keep your eyes forward there, Ken, and I'll do the reading. This was posted, everybody, July 15th, 2024. It is live on Audible and Amazon. It's an international Canadian review, so here we go. The book Make Some Noise, author Ken Schmidt. Title, Revved Up and Ready, a must-read for business and motorcycle enthusiasts alike. And here's what I wrote, 5 stars. Make Some Noise by Ken Schmidt is exhilarating journey that intertwines the rugged charm of Harley-Davidson with profound business insights. As a longtime fan of business literature and motorcycles, and I've been a distant fan in my mind, I found this book an absolute gem. Schmidt, the former director of communications at Harley-Davidson, takes readers on a ride through one of the most celebrated corporate turnarounds in history. And he does so with voice that is equal parts entertainer, storyteller, and a business guru. From the moment you start listening to the audiobook, you're hooked. Schmidt's narration is a delight. He used that word, right? You said that before. Full of humor, vivid metaphors, personal anecdotes that bring Harley-Davidson experience to life. His passion for motorcycles isn't just a background note. It's a roaring engine that drives the book forward, making you feel like you're on the open road with him. The thrill and freedom of riding a Harley are used as a powerful metaphor for business success, creating a unique and memorable reading experience. This book stands out because of Schmidt's innovative approach to creating customer loyalty and market dominance. The Noise Cube trilogy, which is 3 crucial questions, offers a straightforward yet profound framework for assessing and improving any business's positioning, competitiveness, and reputation. Schmidt illustrates these principles with diverse and engaging case studies, ranging from a heavy construction company to luxury brands, and even his landscaper. These stories, they're not just instructive, they're captivating, making complex business strategies accessible and enjoyable. As someone who has both the audiobook and the hard copy, I can attest that Make Some Noise is a valuable resource that I'll revisit time and again. It's not just a book for business professionals, everyone. It's a compelling narrative anyone can enjoy and learn from. Through credibility shines through every page, reflecting the pivotal role in Harley that he had, remarking revival from the brink of collapse to his iconic status today. The PDF was my favorite. The workbook accompanying that is unique and is well done. So whether you're looking to gain a competitive edge in business, build stronger customer relationships, or enjoy a well-told story, Make Some Noise is the book for you. Schmidt's insights are practical. His storytelling is masterful, making this book a must-have on any bookshelf. I highly recommend it. All right, there you go.
Wow,
Ken.
man, I'm humbled by that. That was glorious.
And
jeez, my mother would have been so proud. So thank you.
taking note, a picture of Ken Schmidt being humbled right there in front of him. Ken, you are a humble guy, so let me remove that off the screen. We're still on the ride. We have a couple more short things to do before we wrap up here with you today. Now, can you believe it? I mean, oxytocin is flowing between the two of us, but what I said to you is that when you're connecting deeply with people and you have a gift, we've just burned an hour and 20 minutes. It's incredible, isn't it? How much we've done in producing this today. So let me get into the next part, which is my favorite, and that is the award for you, Ken. So I'm going to put something else on the stage here. So everybody, I'm going to show you an image of something. It comes in a little sleeve like this, and let me just put it up to the camera. This is called a challenge coin.
Yeah.
When I started the show, Ken, years ago, I wanted to have something that could be awarded to people who are, I think, in the 1% of the world, who come and bring their backstory of gut punches, successes, who transform into serving the world. And so these coins are carried around the world in 17 countries with people who have come through my show. They're hard to get. And so we're honoring you by bringing you into the Quiet Warrior community today. The way it's designed is the front of the coin is the emblem of the show. These are hand-painted, crafted, raised letters done in the U.S. The back is my favorite. I'm bragging here. It's the hero's journey narrative, the storytelling narrative by Joseph Campbell's work. Joe Campbell basically left us a library universe of storytelling and why it works. And the hero's journey is what that narrative is called. Hero's journey is actually behind movies like Hitchcock and Star Wars and others. It is used widely.
Oh, yeah.
So, Ken, congratulations, and I honor you with...
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. So you'll get that coin, and we'll ask you to take a photo of it on your Harley somewhere that's memorable.
Oh, I can do that. That's easy.
And I will end that recognition off with something else here that I want to read out of my book. 5 words. Today we went one extra. These are leadership words that I write down. They're not scripted as I'm interviewing. 1, memorable. Dude, you're memorable. 2, the only. You are the only. And that's incredible. 3, leader. Absolutely a born leader. 4, love. Comes out of you. And I can't explain it to you, but that connection to my brain, that love is there. 5, wisdom. Time, knowledge, wisdom. If you want to know something, everybody, to transform your business, get on a ride with this guy. So congratulations, Ken, for being inducted into the Quiet Warrior community.
I'm glad to have that honor. Fantastic.
You're welcome. And we're just going to put up quick fireworks there for Ken. All right. Okay. Well, now it's your turn to tell us, as I take that off the screen there. Tell us, Ken, anything you want to wrap us up, where we can get a hold of you, your book, and a word of wisdom.
Well, I think, and I thank you for mentioning the book and doing me proud with that. That's easy to find. If you want to see or learn more about me, you can come to my website, kenspeaks.com. You can listen. I'm about to release a whole new season on my podcast called Tailgating with Geniuses, which is discussions with incredibly smart people from very, very well-known businesses that share their success stories. Those are the best ways to find me. I'm also on LinkedIn every day, and there is no question that you can ask me through any format that I won't answer. So find me on LinkedIn. If you've got a question, find me on the website. Happy to help anybody, anywhere, anytime. Just reach out.
And he is a man of his word. He does connect on LinkedIn because he connected to me. So now, before we let you go, you get to fulfill the promise you gave me to critique the show. So anything you want to say about the experience of the show today?
First of all, tremendous amount of fun. I'm not used to having fun on these, so the effort that went into this far exceeds, Tom, what I'm accustomed to. Basically, I'm used to a couple of talking heads, so you made it fun. The time went by very, very quickly. I think we're simpatico on just about everything. So to your point, I think we are in alignment on this stuff. And if I can just as a compliment to you, because when we first connected with each other, I went back and I've watched some of your shows, but I also watched your TED Talk. And one of the things I always talk about with clients is like, you can't say what's expected. And if all you have is expected language, you have to present it in a different way to make it memorable. And you said something where you defined CEO not just as chief executive officer, but you were talking about mental health. And you said cracks emotionally often.
That's right.
Immediately burned into my brain. Immediately. So I said,
Wow.
that's how it's done, folks. I didn't forget it. I just repeated it. It ain't going anywhere. And I'm always going to think of you. Or when I think, or I see your name somewhere, that's the immediate trigger that's going to go off. Clever, memorable, but also very impactful.
Well, I'm humbled. I appreciate that, and I'm being Ken now, being brilliantly humbled. So thank you for that, and that's meaningful to me. So everybody, please reach out. Go to kenspeaks.com. It's an awesome website. There's some cool videos there, by the way, that you got to watch them. And you know what? Live with passion, live with purpose, and live the life that you deserve and desire, just like Ken here has taught us. And when the final releases come out, you're going to be blown away with how we're going to position this to yet again elevate Ken to make some noise. Thank you, Ken, for being here.
So thanks so much for having me, Tom. A lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
All right, we're going to take it off the line here, so stand by, Ken, ending stream.